Good morning and welcome to the Hometown Morning Show with Tori and Kyle. We've got some special guests in studio this morning. First, very special guest is Andrew Menjivar, who we lovingly call Menji here at the station, which I'm just now finding out you really, as a director, spoiler alert, you're a director.
Yes.
You didn't go by Menji on set of your new film, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. You didn't go by Menji.
No.
What's going on?
So I like to say that Menji is kind of like my Santa Clarita name because everyone on the other side of the hill really only calls me Andrew.
I can't do it.
So, and I respond to both now. It's been 10 years people calling me Menji.
I can't do it. So Menji has a film called Driven, the Tony Pearson Story. And you have been working on this project for a few years. And we have been hearing little bits and pieces about the film. And if here's the thing. I'm going to tell our listeners a little secret if they don't know already. Menji is pretty brilliant. He does all of our videos. He does all of our tech work here. Anything you see on YouTube and whatnot, he is incredibly creative and does incredibly beautiful work. And in addition to working here, he's also a director and he does outside projects. And this labor of love has been in the works for a couple of years. And we're so excited for you to have this film coming out, but also we get the star of the documentary in studio. He's already rolling his eyes.
Yeah.
He's already rolling his eyes. Tony Pearson is called Driven, the Tony Pearson Story in studio. Tony Pearson, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome in person to the Hometown Morning Show with Tori and Kyle. We are going to try and talk. We're going to talk to you. You're here for the duration of the show, and we're going to talk in and out of commercial breaks and traffic and all kinds of stuff about. I want to hear. Behind the scenes.
Okay.
I want to hear some fun stories. I want you to tell stories out of school about this guy.
Oh, no.
I want to hear everything that we can talk about this film. Now, we got to speak with you briefly last week on the phone about this documentary called Driven. It is out tomorrow, October 6th. Anywhere, correct me if I'm wrong, Menji, anywhere you stream.
Yeah, so anywhere digital, so Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Vudu, wherever you get your digital movies, just search Driven, Tony Pearson, it'll pop up. And
I get them everywhere. I have all, I have them all. I have them all, Tony. It's about your life, and most of your life, you've had a passion for bodybuilding. And having said that, it's not about bodybuilding. It's about you and your life heading into this career and what you've done all your life, because you had a rough childhood. You had a very difficult beginning. And then you get to see the progression and where you are now. And it's inspirational. It's one of those, I equate it to the fictional Rocky, when he's having such, right? Remember the original?
You hit the right spot with Rocky there.
Yeah?
That's one of his favorite films, too.
Okay. The original Rocky, right? And
Yes.
you're cheering him on. You want so badly, even when he's drinking the eggs and you just want him. And then when he does the steps, it's like, we're good here. And I think originally when I saw the movie, and I was a child when it was in the theater, literally the entire audience was just cheering at that point when he ran up those stairs. I mean, it was like we were seeing it live. And when I hear about your film, Tony, it just, that's where I go, where, you've made good. So tell me where this film starts. And we'll go from there. Where does it start? Like the opening credits, where do we start? Do we start at childhood?
We do, yes, because I was raised in Memphis, Tennessee, and I was 3 years old. So that's where it really starts. It's a very bad scene at 3 years old.
Do you remember some of the badness at 3?
Clearly.
You do?
Absolutely.
You have memories from 3 years old?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what you remember at 3.
Okay, I was a kid. I guess at my mom and dad's house, I was free to do whatever I want. Like a kid, a boy. I'm running through the house and playing with my ball, and somebody said to me, "Stop running through the house." And I said, "No." You know how bratty kid.
Yeah.
I'm running and running, and the second time they repeated it, and before I knew it, I was lifted over the flames of a wood-burning stove with the top back, and I was feeling the flames on my back, and I was screaming my head off, and she said a few words to me and dropped me on the floor, and so from that moment, I was never a child again.
It's pretty dark stuff, isn't that, Tori?
That I ran into a corner, and I was sitting in the corner. It was dark, and I stared back at her.
And did this happen? Did this repeatedly happen, or was this a one-time
That
thing?
was a one-time thing for the setups of the beatings for the next 12 years.
So the abuse continued.
Oh, absolutely.
The abuse continued.
Got more intense. And alcohol had a lot to do with that on her part. And a lot had to do where she was raised. And she was born in 1903 in the deep, deep South and working in the fields. And I think that's all she knew. That was her way of loving or controlling.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, he threatened her. He put a gun on her.
Okay. So this is heavy stuff.
So, yeah. So, you say, where does this start? Childhood? Yes, it all started when I was born. And then you think, okay, all right, we got to really start at the beginning. Yes, we absolutely do. And let me tell you, the beginning part of this film really is not comfortable. It's seriously, like, if you didn't feel comfortable with Tony talking about this, that's kind of the beginning part. But it's very important for me, for you, the audience, to actually trudge through that uncomfortableness so that you can actually see just how much Tony achieves at the very end, just how much he went through, so it pays off.
I was going to say,
end.
is there a payoff that we are just going to be, the tears and crying and going,
Oh, enormous payoff.
Yay,
Enormous payoff. And it's really funny that you mentioned Rocky and how in the theater everyone was cheering.
Mm-hmm.
Back in February when we first premiered the film, there is a very exciting sequence towards the end of the film. And I was, I always had it in my head like, oh, I hope people cheer. But it was
You thought it was a dream.
yeah, just a dream. And then all of a sudden, that sequence plays out, and then I hear cheering in the theater. And it's like, we're not even done with the movie, and people are clapping and they're cheering. And it's like, what is going on? We did it. We absolutely did it.
That's amazing. And not only is it amazing, but coming from such a dark place at age 3 and making this transition and seeing your struggles and your drive to get to where you are today, it's awe-inspiring. And it's just a happy, your heart is breaking at the beginning, but boy, it's just put back together at the end, and people are cheering. We are going to let me do a quick break. We got to talk about traffic and all that kind of good stuff. But Tony will be here, Menji will be here, and we're going to talk more about the film. Put it on the calendar. As a matter of fact, it's
tomorrow.
We
Tomorrow.
don't even want to put it on the calendar. We need alerts. Put alert on your phone.
Pre-order it right now. Go to Apple TV. Like literally right now. What are you doing? Stop listening to it. Just go.
Just go. It's called Driven, and it comes out tomorrow, October 6th. In studio, we have Tony Pearson and Andrew Menjivar, the director of Driven, in studio. We're going to take a quick break, look at traffic, look at what's happening with the weather, and then we'll be back in a couple of minutes with more right here on your hometown station.
And AM 1220.
8:39 coming up on 8:40 on this Thursday. In studio guest, Andrew Menjivar, who is the director of the Tony Pearson Story. It's called Driven, which comes out on video tomorrow, October 6th. And also in studio, how about the star of this documentary, Tony Pearson? Welcome, guys. Thanks for being on the Hometown Morning Show with Tori and Kyle.
Oh, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you.
I feel like I'm always here, but I'm glad to be here.
We are so excited about this documentary because we've been hearing about this for the last couple of years. Menji, you are the director. You are a brilliant video guy. I think that's the technical name for what you do, video guy, right?
Video guy. You're going to give me an inflated ego. I'm going to start being a diva like Kyle over here.
You do amazing work for the station, so we can't wait to see this real life documentary, which comes out on video tomorrow. Tony, we're going to play the trailer to one of the trailers to this film. Runs about 2 minutes. And while we're listening to this, because we got a chance to talk to you, the Tony Pearson story, it's about it's a human interest story, but it takes Tony from age 3 all the way to where he is now and his passion for bodybuilding. And we're going to ask exactly how you got into bodybuilding and why you were once called the Michael Jackson of bodybuilding, which is a very cool title for sure. We're going to ask you all that. But I want to listen to the trailer, and I want you to listen too, and tell me at the end of this 2 minutes exactly what jumps out at you as far as thinking about the filming of your story. This is yours. Do you ever just stop and go, this is my story? It's up now on this big screen. Do you ever just sit back and go, wow?
I do say wow because it's hard to believe. But I keep it humble. I'm, just keeping it real and I go, okay, whatever. But yeah.
But he's screaming inside like
Screaming
like a
inside?
schoolgirl.
Yes. All right.
Pom-poms.
Oh, okay. So this is the trailer for Driven, the Tony Pearson story.
At times they stare at you, it's...
Does that embarrass you to have people feel that way?
I was picking cotton at age 6 on. It's incredibly intense. I have back pain, I think, from that today.
It was mandatory that we did. It was brutal.
Fear. There's only one word, fear.
George Turner would have Tony do things nobody else would do. Nobody would even dream of doing. And Tony would do it because he was so hungry to succeed.
We saw you at the gym, we wouldn't come near you because your face said don't. For 3 hours I'm training, every body part. I never said I can't, I won't, I don't think I can.
There was a tie-in between how well you were known and how much you would win. And Tony did not get a lot of publicity.
The writers in the muscle magazines had Ron Tufo set up to win.
They closed the curtains on me. The guy who stops posing might lose. I'm not gonna stop posing. I came here to finish my routine. And then it hit me. I won.
He wanted it 20. Tony did. That's a big title. Tony was magic on 2 feet. The things he did with his body was just magic.
He was flowing like a dancer with big muscle.
Somebody, I guess, mentioned to Tony that he looked a little like Michael Jackson. It was Michael Jackson with muscles.
It's like it was yesterday. I was afraid to come back to face it.
So you went to Memphis.
Yes, we packed up and went down to Memphis.
How was that?
I didn't think about it until I arrived, and then I realized I'm back where it all began.
Where it all began, where you talk about picking cotton at 6 years old.
Yes.
That's not, I remember, at 6 years old, I was playing with crayons. So that is so out of my thought. Like, how did you get up in the morning and pick cotton? Like, how did that even happen?
Well, I was told to get out of bed, and no food. I was practically starving to death at the same time. Get dressed, we go into the cotton fields, and they would pull me out of school for months.
Mm-hmm.
And every day in the cotton field for, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., pulling cotton, putting it in a sack and weighing it, and with no food, basically. I was really starved as a child.
Do you think having that very dark childhood made you the person you are today? Did that turn you into having a passion for bodybuilding, like literally mental and physical strength?
Yes, it did. It was an escape in the beginning, but I fell in love with the sport. Had a very good trainer back in St. Louis, Missouri, And
is that the George that we were talking about
George
on the
Turner.
trailer?
Yep,
George?
yep.
Yes, George Turner. He's a very intense man.
It says in the trailer he was having you do things that people wouldn't
Wouldn't dare do.
Give me one thing that, people would go for his throat if they asked him he asked them to do it.
Pretty much anything, right?
So years later, I realized that, wait a minute, George was torturing me. He was testing me.
Mm-hmm.
He was an ex-Marine, and he wanted to see would I ever say no, or I can't, because that's the moment he was going to throw you out the gym. Don't waste my time. So I never said no to George. I mean, some of that came from my childhood too, because I would never say no. You always say yes, or say nothing.
Right.
So whatever
yeah.
George told me to do, I did. But training Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, doing squat sessions, 350 pounds, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 9 months. So that was really, really intense, but I didn't think twice about it.
You just did it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
in the documentary, we have an interview that said, you couldn't drop a weight, you couldn't ting a weight, or he would just explode on you. So he was quite the character.
You couldn't, if you heard the weight.
Clinging together.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
That's a problem.
Or in a tank top. That's a problem. Making noise between grunting, that's a problem.
Okay, we have to go back to let's circle back. Wait a minute.
Super intense.
Let's circle back to, you can't wear a tank top?
No.
Why is that a rule?
So this is 1976, 75, 76, and George Turner had the most famous gym in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to train in a gym, you follow his rules.
Got it.
So that was his rules. He was sitting in his little booth like this, and he would have an intercom, and he'd push and say, "Hey, you, put that weight away, or stop making the noise, or you're out of here." So he'll walk over to people and give them money back and say, "There's a door, you can leave." Oh, yeah. Sometimes he gets into fights with people, too. So he takes them outside, he beats them up, and he comes back into his office.
It all goes in the documentary. You'll find out a lot more, but it was kind of like that back in the day where it's not like now where there are gyms all over the place and you can get a membership and all that. There were only a few places that you could go and get a workout or a quality workout, and George was one of them. So you just had to put up with it, or you lost your place to train.
Yeah, so that was torture for me. I realized 365 pounds, he was going to publish his book, he never did. So they found and said, "This is what he said about you. At 16 years old, you were squatting 350 pounds. I go, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." And I remember on Friday, I couldn't get out of the car. I was so intensely sore. You can't walk. But it's time to train. Mm-hmm. And George was standing there and count those reps for you, so, you can't miss one. Mm-hmm. And he's yelling at you the whole time.
But... So. I don't mean to make light of the situation, but kind of you were used to that as a child, being yelled at and being told what to do and being abused. So growing into this way of training really was just honestly the next step for you. Like you didn't know any better, right?
Exactly. It was an extension. I recently said that. I said, George was, my auntie was setting me up for this type of work. But the only difference is I was enjoying it.
Right.
I was at the big, beautiful gym. I had a trainer training me for free. I eat next door at the restaurant after the workout. So I was in heaven.
We need to take a little break. We're going to do one last check of traffic. Then we're going to come back because I want to hear in the final segment with Tony Pearson about why he was called the Michael Jackson of bodybuilding and how that all came about. And we're going to talk to him and continue with that. In the meantime, make sure you go on your phone right now if you can, if you're not driving, and make sure you download the
pre-order it.
Yep. For Driven, the Tony Pearson story. It's on all formats.
All digital formats, Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Vudu, wherever you get them.
Whatever. Okay. Well, I have all of them.
Well,
so I'll just
get them on all.
Just get them on all. In the meantime, do that, and we'll be right back with the director of Driven, Andrew Menjivar, and the star of the Tony Pearson story, Driven, with Tony Pearson. 8:55 on this Thursday, October 5th. I'm saying the date because it's very important, because tomorrow, October 6th, the movie Driven, the Tony Pearson story, comes out on video, and you can get it anywhere. Amazon, Apple, Vudu, wherever you stream movies. And I suggest suggest you do. Because in studio, we have the director of this film, Andrew Menjivar, and the star of this film, Tony Pearson. And we are learning so much about, this is a human interest story, although a big bulk of it has to do with who you are. You're a bodybuilder, a famous, very successful bodybuilder. But we have to get to that point. So we learn a lot about your childhood, which is very dark, but you're promising me a wonderful ending.
Absolutely.
Where I'm going to cheer and I'm going to be crying happy tears.
Keep your tissues close by.
Okay. All right. I'm banking on that because the beginning is very dark. Tony, you explained how you were basically tortured or abused as a young child starting at age 3. One of the things we have learned over the past hour is you had a little bit of a nickname. You were called the Michael Jackson of bodybuilding. Michael Jackson of bodybuilding. Please build me a bridge. I need to hear why and how.
Okay, very quickly, I had my nose job. I had a nose job in 1984, like Michael Jackson did.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the Weeder's office in Woodland Hills. And Ricky Wayne was the editor-in-chief of the magazine. He says, come in and do an article on you, give you some publicity a little bit. So I'm sitting across the desk from him, and he looks at me. He kept dropping his pen. He kept writing. He kept looking at me. I go, why is he staring at me? And he said, you look like Michael Jackson. I'm going to include that into the article. And it just exploded. It went crazy. So I had a lot of shows, exhibitions, seminars, and I had the hat, the jerry curl, and a few dance moves. And
Did you?
Oh, absolutely. You can go to YouTube and watch all my stuff. It's all on YouTube. So, yeah, I did the whole dance routine. And,
one glove? Did you do the one glove?
Didn't have the glove because
Okay.
you got to flex your biceps.
Yeah, so that was one of the big things with Tony that really set him apart from a lot of the other bodybuilders was, and we go over in the documentary of how his posing was different. The style was flowy. It was almost like dancing, and that really wasn't the case for a lot of the bodybuilders. And on top of that, the magazines were super important. Something that I learned, how important the magazines were to the bodybuilders. If you weren't on a magazine, you were basically nobody.
Well, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, but I just recently saw a documentary on Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yes. Did you guys ever cross paths?
Yes, he discovered me on Muscle Beach in 1976.
I'm sorry, what? Why are we burying the lead? What did we do here?
Did we not say that? Did we not mention that?
What?
1976, I was training at Muscle Beach out in the hot sun. He comes over to me and he says, I've been watching you. You look fantastic. Let me take you to the workout.
You do get that's not a bad Arnold.
So he took me to a workout. He wrote down on a piece of paper at the end of it, and he says, go so you talk to Joe Weider and tell him I sent you, and to do an article for the magazine.
Fantastic.
So that's how it all began. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I was just watching his documentary, and he brought up the magazines. That's where he got his inspiration, and it all started. He was like looking in these magazines going, yes, this is it. I found where I want to go and what I want to do. And so, yes, those magazines were incredibly important. In the time we have left, and we only have 30 seconds left, you guys. First of all, let me say what a pleasure it has been to have you in studio. I'm extremely over the top excited to see this documentary over the weekend. I absolutely will as soon as we get off the air, pre-ordering. It's called Driven, the Tony Pearson Story. It comes out tomorrow on any platform. Stream it. Please enjoy it. Guys, thank you so much for being here and much success with the movie.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.